Hello, it's Melinda from Alexis and Melinda's Art Space. Coming on today with another empties, and did I like the product or not? Haven't emptied anything in a while, but my box is quite full, so I actually did look up, and it's been quite a while since I put up my last empties video. Takes a while to go through jars of stuff, especially when they're big, and I tend to buy big because I tend to use a lot. So without further ado, let's go through. I have used up some foam tape. Just some cheapo brands. I don't even know what brand that is. So I've got 3 foam tapes out of my stash. Got a couple of, that's a regular double-sided tape. Got a green washi tape and some other washi tape. It's always great to use up washi tape rolls. I may keep some of these empty rolls for my gel plate, and they make different sized rings and things to stamp with. So before I throw all these in the trash, I'll go through and work out which ones I want to do. A couple of rolls of masking tape. Now I use masking tape in a couple of ways. I use it to put down the middle of my spine of my book to join the 2 pages together and then paint over it in my art journal, or sometimes I use it actually on my page as just a bit of texture. So I got rid of a couple of really old rolls of masking tape as well. Then look, I must have been using up loads and loads of double-sided tape. Wow, that's a fair effort. I think this was a lot of last year when I was doing lots of demos and making lots of cards and things, and making cards does take up a lot of tape. So a lot of these are couture creations. It's really good tape. I get it from my good friend at Hillbilly Scrapping, and I buy it in like a 10-roll pack, and it's awesomely priced, and it's really sticky stuff. So there's 4 rolls I've got. I've gone through of that. I'll have to get some more probably. And a couple of Expressive brands that have been sitting around for ages. Trying to use up a lot of older stuff this year and really dive into my stash. So I tend to go through a lot of adhesives. Oh, here's another roll of duct tape that I used up. Mainly this was used up sticking my camera up several times on the top of my webcam, sticking that up several times. Glue sticks. I tend to use glue sticks when I'm just collaging paper to paper in my art journals. Some glue sticks are better than others. These 4 little ones are from Aldi. They're pretty good if you're sticking paper to paper. I find if you're sticking any paper over paint or anything like that, you have to use a bit stronger. But I have been doing a lot of magazine collages and things like that, so I have been going through the glue sticks. Boss stick is really good. I tend to want to use cheaper glue sticks if they work just as well as the good glue sticks. So I have got a bunch of Yoo-Hoo ones at the moment, only because they're $1 at school time. But Enco, that's a Kmart brand. Boss stick, I don't even know where I get that from. But they're pretty good brands, except sometimes I find certain paints like better glue sticks than others. It just depends. If it's not sticking down, I usually stick down another glue stick. Some awful glue I got from Daiso because I was down there one day and wanted to do some art and craft and never took glue with me, but it was awful stuff. It was like a white PVA. Yuck. But I ended up using it up. Don't like to waste things. While we're going on adhesives, used up a couple of bottles. This was really old, the Helmar 450. Finally used up the last little bit of that. The only thing I don't like is the tip. It comes out too gushy. So what I tend to do is I'll keep this one. This is from the Reject Shop. Doesn't hold as well, but I like the top of the bottle. So I've been sneaky, if I can get this off. So this comes completely closed when you buy it, and you can just put a small pin prick in. I've got one of those, what they call an awl or a hole reamer. Or a big darning needle, shove it down the tip, makes a little hole. So what I do is boil a kettle, pop this in, obviously with the lid off because it does liquefy. So open the lid and pop it in a bowl of hot water for about 30 seconds. Liquefies the glue, and then I can simply pour it because Helmar 450 is more like a gel. It's really, really good, strong stuff, but it's not liquidy, so it doesn't run very well. So then I put it into this jar, this bottle after I've used this, which was not the best craft glue. It's okay on a push, but I do prefer Helmar 450. And then I've got my little tip to use on it. Actually, I just had a thought. I wonder if I've just changed the lids. These have been sitting around for a while. I can't get the lid off. Oh, they're probably not the same size, are they? Nope, this one looks smaller. So that's what I do with those, but the Helmar 450 is fantastic stuff. We're using all my classes that I teach with Hillbilly Scrapping as well. We use it at all the craft shows. It is quick drying and it is awesome stuff. We'll go through some little paint tubes. Haven't been using a lot of paint lately. Got a bunch of Montmark and Aldi ones to use up. I might just go and have a lot of fun on my gel plate one day and use those up. Don't like the Aldi one. It's a bit plasticky with paint, so I probably wouldn't repurchase again, but the Montmark one is quite well, just for basic colours. But I am liking my Delusions and Dina Wakley paints at the moment and tend to just reach for those. So I'm going to have to get out these paint tubes and use them up. Because unfortunately, paint has a shelf life. This one was from Kmart and you can see the paint split. I squeezed some out and shaken this and tried to rejuvenate it, and I cannot do it. It won't go back together. It's like a solid and liquid now, so it's destined for the bin. Unfortunately, things like paints and anything liquid in your stash has a shelf life, so the great thing to do is to use it up. Speaking of using it up, I had some of these hanging around in my stash. Dina Wakley white gesso, and used 2 of these tubes up. What I'll do now is probably cut the tube open and see if there's anything left in it, because it's amazing how much is at paint or that. These ones I don't tend to bother because I sort of squeeze them all the way down and they're not that expensive. But when I've got expensive things, I will cut this off, stick my paintbrush down in it and just paint on some extra pages in my art journal just to prepare them. So I got rid of 2 of these. I've got 2 black ones sitting around somewhere. I've got to use up the black gesso as well. The black gesso's got a little thick in the tubes. I will repurchase the Dina Wakley white gesso. I do like it, but I've got some other gessos to use up first. Trying to use up all my bits and pieces. Pen that died. This one's a really good one. I don't even know where this come from. But it's been great, but now it's dead. Just like a black texture that I use a lot. And I killed a pair of scissors. I broke them. They're broken and they won't cut, and this has all come off, and I don't know. They use things and they break. Speaking of more adhesives, I'm on a mission to use up adhesives. Now, I don't really like Mod Podge. I did and used to buy it anytime it was on special at Spotlight and Lincraft and stuff like that when they had their 40% off sales. I don't like it in my art journal because it actually sticks the pages together, especially when you've got it on both pages. But again, I will use it up. And even though it says matte, it has a little bit of a gloss to it. But I have used 2 jars up in the last probably 8 months. This year and last year. Oh, that's 18 months. I've also been through 2 jars of Little Birdie acrylic soft gel. This is really great stuff. I really like this. Normally it's about $8 a jar, but I usually buy it when it's on clearance, or not on clearance, on special. Almost was tempted when I was at Lincraft the other day to grab a couple more jars, but I do have some other stuff, again, I want to use up. So I'm on a mission this year to use up bits and pieces. So again, these have a shelf life. I do go through a lot of the gel medium and the Mod Podge when I'm sticking stuff in my art journal with doing pattern papers and sticking down tissue papers, and when I'm doing lots of layering and lots of paper piercing, I go through a heap of this sort of glue. Gesso I go through a fair bit of as well with all my different projects. I haven't used a lot of gesso lately, and I tend to go through phases of it. Sometimes I use heaps of it, sometimes I don't. I like the Montmark gesso, especially the black. The white can be a little plasticky if you put it on too thick. I've got some friends that don't like it. I don't mind it. The black I really like. The black I actually technically haven't used. All of it up, it had about a centimetre left in it. So I've actually taken it out of this big jar and put it into a smaller jar, into a Vegemite jar. So I keep my old Vegemite jars because they're quite small ones that we buy. And whenever something like this gets down to, and I don't know whether I'll be able to open either of these containers, this one will open up. When a product gets down to be less than half, a lot of air is in there and it will dry out your product a lot quicker. So even though these big jars are great value, what I tend to do is use it till it gets about half full, and then I will take it and put it into a smaller jar. So the jar is then full. It doesn't have all that air drying out your product. So I've got rid of black gesso and white gesso. I think I've got another black gesso to use up, and then I'll be on the hunt for some more. Again, Hillbilly Scrapping is usually where I buy this from. But speaking of white gesso, I was curious with this, and last year, Right Art and Craft had an amazing deal on this gesso. Again, I haven't used up this entire litre bottle, plus I have another one sitting there. These are normally $40, but they had 2 for $30, like last year, during COVID. So I thought I was a bit curious. Areldo de Paul is a really good brand for paint. I've had their paints before. So I thought, why not have a go at their gesso. Usually I wouldn't buy 2 litres before trying it out, but I took a gamble. I really like it. Now, if you don't like gritty gesso, you won't like it. It's got a bit of grit in it. So when you paint it on your page, this one doesn't have grit in it that you can feel. This one has a bit of grit, which is good in some ways, not good in others. So sometimes having 2 different types of gesso in your stash is really good anyway. And gesso, if you don't know, is an undercoat. So we use it to undercoat our pages or seal our chipboard before we put other colours on top. But I do really like the gritty gesso. I find it's a bit translucent, so sometimes I do need 2 coats. This one's quite opaque. So they have, even though they're both gessos, they're different brands. This is like going to Woolworths. This is like going to Coles and buying their home brand or buying different brands of stuff. Great analogy I heard the other day. It's like buying chocolate, right? You can buy cooking chocolate, which is now not so nice to eat. You can buy Cadbury chocolate, which is about the mid-range and quite nice. Or you can buy Ferrero Rocher, and that's the top brand of chocolate. So gesso is about the same sort of comparison as well. You can buy great brands. You can buy good brands. This is like a student brand. This is obviously a student and probably a bit more up from a student brand. So it's a bit more of an artist sort of quality, and then you can get stuff that's really more expensive and a real good artist quality. So it just depends on what you want to spend, what you want in your budget. This one is a bit more gritty. Depends if you like that. I don't mind it. Sometimes I don't like the grittiness, so I do have a bit of this left as well. So it's good to have both, but I do have 2 litres of this to use up, so we'll be using more of this up. So that's about my empties for probably the last 18 months. I've been a bit slack. I've got a lot of things that are nearly empty, but I just haven't used that last little bit up yet. So this is probably the last 18 months of, every time I empty something, I just throw it in this little box, and the box was getting way too big. Obviously with all these big jars in it, I thought it was time to do this video. So hopefully these are helpful. Sometimes it's so confusing looking at products and deciding if it's good value, if it's not. Probably wouldn't recommend Mod Podge for art journaling, but hey, if that's the only thing you've got access to, it'll work. You've just got to watch your pages don't stick together. But this little one's good, but again, little birdie, it's not available everywhere. I've only seen it in some, England Craft, and they don't tend to have much left. Sometimes I don't see it at all in there. So it's also what you can get your hands on as well, which makes life sometimes fun with crafting, and what price you want to pay for it as well. So it all depends on that. So I hope this has been a little helpful for some people, talking through the different brands and why I like them, why I don't like them, and why I'd probably repurchase them. And I only save this for my paints and my sort of gel mediums and stuff. I don't save any of my sticker packets or my things like that. I know some YouTubers do and show them off. I mainly just do paints and mediums and things I can give a review on. So I hope this has been a little bit helpful, and talking through the different brands that are available here in Australia. And it's nice to sometimes see someone else's opinion and see if you want to try it. But definitely buy this one on special. $40 for a litre of gesso is a little pricey in my view, and I probably would never buy it real price. But this one's quite reasonable. This one is quite reasonably priced for a entry level into your art journaling. But there's also other companies that make like really, really tiny little jars. Yes, the tiny little jars are great if you just want to try a product and see if you like it. But if you do use a lot of it, the bigger jars are definitely worthwhile. Thank you very much for watching, and I will be back at another time with more of my empties. I'm going to go throw all this in the recycle bin now. Bye for now.